Hello and welcome to Run It Back on the Raptors Republic Network. As always, I'm your host, Shofi Sheikh, but I am not joined by Kyle Ramnarine this week. It's just me and Cody Wiles. Kyle is not feeling well. Send him your best wishes. We hope him a speedy recovery so he can come back and eventually tell us why Jalen McDaniels should have his number retired. But until
Yep.
then, it's me and Cody holding it down. Cody, how you doing today, man?
Feeling great, feeling great. Yeah, we gotta pick up Kyle's slack. Okay, so there's got to be some propaganda of somebody going on this podcast. But yeah, I'm feeling good. Lots of news going on, lots of like
Yeah.
weird, like interesting news to talk about. Right before we were just saying basketball is getting underway in about 11 days here. The preseason game, media days coming up, so a couple of interesting tidbits to talk about, and then we're talking basketball, baby.
Yeah, we're so close. We're so close to be talking about real basketball again soon. But until then, again, we've been easing you into the basketball season. We talked a bit about the roster and our expectations. And like you said, Cody, in the last couple days, there's been news and Raptors related news that's been leaking out, reporting, whatever you want to call it. Some of it was even announced by the team. So we thought we'd do a little news dump podcast, react to it, give our thoughts and kind of recap it for everyone. That's what we do here, anyways, and run it back. So we're gonna run it back on all the news, get you caught up in Raptors land. And Cody, I can only start from one place. I'd be burying the lead if I didn't.
Yep.
Obviously, the very, very important news. It was reported by Josh Lewinberg of TSN that the Raptors made it. I guess not official because they haven't announced it, but he's saying that the Raptors are going to retire Vince Carter, Air Canada, half man, half amazing, Vinsanity, whatever you want to call him. But Vince Carter's number 15 jersey is going to go up into the rafters at Scotia Bank Arena. November 2nd, it's happening against the Sacramento Kings. So DeMar DeRozan should be in the building. And Carter did mention he intends to go into the Hall of Fame as a Raptor. It is a 30th anniversary celebration, so that is something to kind of go into this as well. Probably seemed like this was a logical next step. But I guess just to start off from you, Cody, like what are your initial thoughts to the announcement, to all the reaction to it and everything going on?
Hey, we're beating the Nets to it, and that's really all that matters, right? I think that was the most important thing, at least for me. I'm glad that they're doing it before Brooklyn is. A lot of discourse on it, a lot more discourse than I really thought there was going to be. There's like people genuinely upset that Vince
Yeah.
is the first one to be retired. I'm interested to hear where your thoughts are on this. If he should have been the first one, I get it. It's the first, so it should mean a bit more, but at the end of the day, like you can't say he doesn't deserve to get his jersey retired as a Toronto Raptor, no matter how it ended. So, what are your thoughts? Because I have no problem with it, but it seems like a lot of people do.
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. A lot of people do have a problem with it, and I'll get into like my little, I guess, like tangent around it in a second. But my initial thoughts are that admittedly, if it were possible for Kyle Lowry to have his jersey retired first, if he had retired and not been playing anymore, I would be in that camp as well. I think Kyle Lowry is the greatest Raptor of all time. I would be saying put his jersey up first. I think he deserves it. But we don't live in that world. That is not the reality we live in. Kyle Lowry still has basketball left to play, according to him. So, in knowing that and in knowing his 30th anniversary, I think if it wasn't Kyle, Vince Carter is the logical other choice. And the little tangent I guess I want to go on, for lack of a better phrase, is I think both sides are understating the impact of the other, which by I mean is that one, I think Vince Carter's legacy and impact and cultural aspect is being downplayed a little bit because of the way he left. And I also think the devastation of how he left matters. And like to go back to the first point, I think Carter has made it clear that he didn't do this, but I think it's been made clear that his impact in this country for the sport of basketball is almost next to none. I think people are forgetting the fact that when this franchise when it was in its infancy stage, Vince Carter was not just a basketball icon in Canada. He was a basketball icon in North America. Like this guy was leading votes for All-Star games. Nobody else in Raptors franchise history has been close to doing that, to being one of the top vote getters. So I think that just shows what kind of impact Carter has had in this country and just North America on the game of basketball. Again, I won't go as far as some people say that he's what saved the Raptors during that time. I don't think that was necessarily the case. People have refuted that, but obviously he was a big part of it. But a lot of the impact of what you have the players in the NBA today have all credited Vince Carter and the impact he had. But again, on the other side of the coin, that was a lot of people's first heartbreak. That was their first breakup, and that's okay to feel that way about it as well. I think you can say that it was devastating. He was the like before Chris Bosh disappointed us. Vince Carter ripped our hearts out. That's kind of how it was, right? No one was really all that upset about Bosch because obviously it wasn't as dramatic and he didn't quote unquote quit on the team. But it was kind of like it was the second phase of what had already happened to us. And Vince Carter, basically, people already know about it. He stopped dunking, his numbers got slashed down because he wasn't, again, trying, reading out, like yelling out plays and all that stuff. So I understand being upset about that, but I don't think somebody's, I guess, darkest times or like low points kind of completely mitigates the high points as well.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, what, it's been like 20 years now. Like, come on. Like, it's really not all stories have a happy ending, unfortunately. But like you said, you can't take away from everything that he did. What really I think might have added some fuel to the fire was the Josh Lewenberg report about there's high-ranking members in the organization who thought that, you know, Kyle Lowry should be first to receive the honor. So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it is. I mean, he's still playing basketball, and
Yeah.
Raptors are doing the 30th anniversary stuff all throughout the year. So it's just a timing thing. I'm sure. At the end of the day, I don't think we're gonna look back at this and just be like, whatever. They all got their jerseys. Like in 10 years, like
Yeah.
they're all gonna have their jerseys retired. And I'm glad that DeMar DeRozan is gonna be in hand to watch it, in person to watch it, because hey, he might have his jersey in the Raptors one day too. So all kind of coming full circle, but. Yeah, it's been a long time since that. I mean, obviously, we maybe weren't necessarily living in the moment with it, but it's. I feel the pain of people for sure, but gotta let go, man.
You gotta heal. Time, like again, it's cliche. Time heals all wounds. Maybe not for some. Hopefully, it does for them eventually as well. But I think the organization has kind of already moved past it and they've grown past it. When Vince Carter got that standing ovation at Scotiabank Arena and he was moved to tears by it, I'm not sure a lot of people remember this, but that was during the Raptors' 20th anniversary season. And I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that was intentional of the organization to say, like, hey, we are in essence burying the hatchet. We're moving on and showing Vince and showing everybody that we have moved on. This doesn't define us anymore. You leaving and breaking our hearts isn't our legacy. And that, honest, if you look back at it in history, that was the 2014 season, I believe, and that was just the start of the Kyle and DeMar era kind of really hitting their stride. And eventually that led to the championship team around 5 years later. So that really speaks to kind of like you bury the hatchet, you moved on, and you showed it isn't what defined you. And look what happened. They built a championship roster around Kyle Lowry. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan was traded for that. But I think in essence, it was a bit of a legacy defining moment for this franchise. And I think this could be the next one to kind of show that, like, look at all the ups and downs this organization's been through.
So do you think there's a subset of people that just think that he shouldn't have his jersey retired at all? Because if you're going to be upset that he's the first one, then you must just not like, there must be part of you that like just doesn't want the jersey to be retired in general, which in my opinion, I'm the one with the mic here. I think that's kind of baloney, but that's just me.
100%. I think there's people that think that, but I'm with you. Again, like it was bad. It was a bad exit, but he's not the only superstar to leave on bad terms. Granted, you could say it was dramatic, but it was also like I don't blame the Raptors and the fan base on this side either, because obviously their first real basketball superstar, their biggest basketball superstar, if we're talking about peak in terms of longevity as well. So I understand how upset they were about it, but also it's sports. It happens. Everyone kind of learned from it. And at the end of the day, Vince Carter had a Hall of Fame career, and he's going to go in as a Raptor, and the Raptors got a championship and showed that isn't what defined them. Obviously, everything else we know, the rest is history. But you mentioned it, the whole upper management potentially wanting Kyle Lowry to go in first, and that's not going to happen by all accounts. But I am interested to know. I'm going to throw a couple names out there. Okay. Who I think have a better than 50% chance of being retired. Again, I'm not saying they have 190, whatever, just better than 50. I want you to try to like order them from me from likeliest to least likely to get.
Oh, man, you're putting me on the spot for this. Yeah, okay.
I'm absolutely putting you on the spot. Okay, so right. Vince Carter is obviously off the table. These are the other names I think have a good chance. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and Chris Bosh. So I have like 7-ish names there for you to consider, and feel free to throw in another if you have one.
Okay. Well, I mean, Kyle Lowry, I mean, book it, seal it, 100%, lock that in, right? I mean,
I'm with you.
It's just a matter of time and when he's done playing and when I don't know how soon you can retire the jersey. Like, can you do it the moment he retires? I don't know, but
you probably could if you really wanted to.
It should be done as fast as possible. DeMar, a little less like it's going to be interesting to see how what's the measurement of success to get your jersey in the Raptors, right? Like even for someone like Kawhi, where it's like 1 year here, but you left such a mark.
Yeah,
It's really gonna for DeMar. I would say DeMar probably has more likely of a chance than Kawhi. I don't know. That's just my initial feeling.
I'm with you
Uh,
on that. To be honest, I agree.
yeah, okay. It's weird. Like Pascal. I mean, I would say Pascal probably has more of a chance than Kawhi Leonard. No, I
Like
would.
if we're again like you, it's interesting because it depends on definition. But I want to like just mention that like the definition to retire someone's jersey doesn't exist. There is no definition. It's purely subjective. Like I'm almost
Yeah.
positive Nick Collison has his jersey retired by the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh yeah, that is true.
You
That
know
is
what I
true.
mean? Like Udonis Haslam, love the guy,
See,
great player, loyalty wise, but
and
he has his
see,
jersey retired.
and see, part of that to me is because of the longevity with the franchise, and that's something that Kawhi Leonard doesn't have. Could have chose to stay, but chose to go home instead, which is completely up his right. Like he totally wanted to do that, and he's fair to do that. And that's why I'm struggling with it myself because of the longevity aspect. Because DeRozan was here for a number of years, Pascal was here a number of years, Fred VanVleet was here a number of years, and then Pascal and Fred are NBA champions.
Yeah.
So I feel like that even bumps it up a little, like compared to DeRozan, who didn't win a championship, but I think he just meant so much, and
Mhm.
he really brought them, was one of the main pieces to bring them to getting the championship. It just unfortunately wasn't him himself. So I mean, personally, I would probably go Lowry, DeRozan, Pascal, Fred, all over Kawhi, and then Bosch. What do you think about Bosch?
I think a lot of people forget about how good of a player Bosch was. He was basically our only after Vince left and until the DeRozan Kyle Lowry era started. That was all practically the only bright spot, other than a couple random dunk contest performances, one by Jamari Moon that you should probably forget. But I think Bosch was pretty much the only bright spot. Again, he left at a certain point to join with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. We all know that. I don't think anyone necessarily blames him for that. There wasn't much success happening around him in Toronto. I
Yeah.
think if you just look back at his numbers, he was ahead of his time a little bit. He was a stretch four. Like if he was playing in today's era, it would have been awesome. I think what takes away from Bosch a little bit is that now he's become so attached to that Miami Heat franchise and that championship era. His number's been retired by Miami, so that kind of takes away people's motivation to want to retire in Toronto. I definitely don't think he's somebody you need to like push to retire his jersey, but at some point it would be nice. I think I just don't want that middle part to be forgotten between Vince and then DeMar and Kyle. Like you can't just erase that history, right?
You can't erase it, but do you think he did enough? Because we got to think the Raptors are a pretty young team in general. I mean, the 30 years obviously coming up here. You got to think like down the road when like, I mean, hopefully Scotty is somebody who, I mean, I don't know where we're getting really far ahead of ourselves now at this point, but hopefully he's somebody who gets his jersey retired. Like just, and throughout the years is what Bosch did good enough to be, you are one of the best players in franchise history when you're looking 30, 40, when we're all grown up, so if you're doing this at 50 years old doing run it back, or are we gonna look back and be like, yes, Bosch is still like did he, I don't think he did it more than Pascal, Fred, the other names that you mentioned, even though he was one of the best players in franchise history, if that makes sense.
Yeah, again, I guess you could say impact wise, it's interesting because like how unlikely is it that Scotty Barnes can have a similar tenure as Chris Bosh? The reason why I'm saying that Chris Bosh was really, really good, but how much winning did it lead to? Not a lot. A couple times in the playoffs. I don't think they even won a series, maybe one or two at most. And then like Scotty Barnes as a 1A guy here, think about it. Unless this team changes a lot of things and improves drastically, is his tenure not going to be similar? And then and then in 20 years, are we going to say Scotty Barnes didn't deserve to have his number in the Raptors? Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I think like it's hard to look at it in like a revisionist history type of way. And I just think this team only has so many people you can even consider honoring for something like this, that his name, I think, has to be in contention. When you look back at the top 10 Raptors of all time, he is like concretely in there, in my opinion.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think it's a name to be considered. You can make the argument that these other guys deserve it more. I think the Kawhi one is interesting. I will say that the case for Pascal and Fred being champions doesn't exist if it isn't for Kawhi. It would be one of the more unorthodox champion retirements we can probably think of for a team and a player. But the Raptors' entire franchise history is unorthodox. Only team north of the border. They do things a little differently here. That would be a really cool, different thing to do. I'm sure people are going to be mixed on that. The last thing I want to just circle back on the DeRozan thing, why I think I personally don't think it's a question. DeRozan's jersey should be retired. It's because just think of one moment when Chris Bosh left us and DeMar DeRozan tweeted out, "I got us." That in itself, he is the only person, not even Kyle Lowry can say this. DeMar DeRozan is the only person to ever do that for Toronto. When we got broken up by our exes again and again and again, when people left, he was the only one who really stepped up and said, "I want to stay and do something special here." And it was unfortunate that the championship came at his expense, but I think what he built with Kyle was special, and it was not going to be possible without the work that he put in. So I think DeMar DeRozan deserves to be retired 1000%. And I think it's going to be interesting to see after these start happening every little while what the reaction is going to be.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And just real quick on the Bosh, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I didn't want to make it. He for sure is in the conversation to get up in the rafters. I was just making the point that, you know, I mean, the longevity and the success with the team, to me, I guess, is the personally how I feel about getting your jersey in the rafters. But Bosh and DeRozan undoubtedly are some of the most talented players to ever play for this team throughout its 30 years. DeRozan, like you said, I would say, okay, to answer your original question, we're going Lowry.
Thinking about it.
Okay, let's just grip it and rip it, Zilphi.
Yeah, do it.
Lowry, DeRozan, Pascal, Fred, Bosh, Kawhi. It's gonna be interesting. Kawhi is just such a wild card because it's has anything like this ever really happened to another franchise where a superstar comes in for 1 year, wins a championship, and then just dips? But it's like it's so momentous for the team. It's interesting, but you can make the case he should have his jersey retired. He is one of the best players to ever play for this team.
What I'll say, and I'll kind of just one last point on that, and why I think the Kawhi thing could work, is because I don't think the Spurs do it because of the way the situation ended there, where he was hurt. They thought he wasn't hurt. The Tony Parker comments and all that kind of stuff. And they obviously have so many other players they can retire and consider. So I don't think the Spurs do it, even though he won a championship there and was a finals MVP. I don't think the Clippers do it unless he like really takes over towards the end of his career and gets healthy. His tenure there has not been good enough for a retirement, I don't think. Granted, he is one of the only real like star players to play for that franchise, so you never know. So I think it could be a weird way where like it just works where that is what Kawhi's like pinnacle moment is. And it honestly, it really is. And I think that could work for both sides to be like, look, Kawhi, your best time was as a Raptor, and the Raptors' best moment was with you here. Let's celebrate that.
Honestly, I never really thought about taking into account how those players with other teams and if those jerseys would get retired. I never even thought about that. I mean, just for Pascal and Fred, like, I mean, I don't think Houston's going to be retiring Fred VanVleet's jersey, even if they go on and has a long tenure there. I don't know about Indiana with Pascal either. So it's an interesting thought. But yeah, I mean, the Clippers retired Kawhi's jersey. They're gonna have to go on a miracle run at some point. So
they might just do it because they need something up there to cover the banner. I guess they don't have to worry about covering the banners anymore because they're in the Intuit Dome now. Well, they need something to hang up in the Intuit eventually. So
yeah, fair enough.
Maybe that's why they do it. Okay. I think that wraps it up for jersey talks, but now we're going to move on to some injury news. Less fun, but obviously very important. The Raptors announced earlier in the week that Bruce Brown underwent arthroscopic surgery on his right knee, and he had the procedure, and the Raptors said that they would be reevaluating him in 3 weeks. And I'm no Dr. Cody. I'm not going to act like I am, but according to some reports I did see, this type of procedure typically takes around 3 to 6 weeks to recover. And obviously, the Raptors opted into Bruce Brown's $23 million player option, so he is with them for this season. So before we get into kind of like the nuances of Brown's role, kind of your initial thoughts or what popped up in your head when you heard this news?
So when I initially saw it, I was confused. Very late in the offseason to be having a surgery like this. So it was initial thoughts going around on Twitter where, some off-season training, he got hurt. But then Lindsey Dunn basically was set the record straight and said that in an interview with her that, yeah, Bruce has been dealing with this injury since he joined the Raptors pretty much last season. So I guess from what people were saying and my understanding is that they were trying to rehab it instead of going the surgery route. Looks like they just decided to go get the surgery, and it doesn't seem too invasive. Like you said, no doctors, but typically around 3 to 6 weeks, which is I mean, give or take 2 months, basically, by the time you get back on the court and you're working yourself in. It's it's interesting to do it late into the off season. Like, I don't know the true timeline if the rehab that went on this off season, especially if it was bugging him all the way since when he joined it last year. But I mean, now we know who's going to be starting at shooting guard, and so maybe it could be a blessing in disguise that Grady Dick should be coming into the lineup at like night one. He should be starting alongside these guys. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people thought that way, anyways. But uh, maybe a blessing in disguise. I'm wondering why it took so late, though. Like, is this for the Raptors to be like, oh, now we have to play Grady? Like, I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm not entirely positive either, other than Bruce being really hesitant to wanting surgery initially. Like you said, maybe potentially he wanted to rehab. But then when you get close to the season and it's not responding, I think we can all agree that the Raptor situation isn't the most ideal for Bruce or the Raptors. They are probably looking to move him. He is probably going to looking for a different situation where he can get a long-term deal. And in knowing that context, Bruce and the organization probably like, if you're not 100%, you're not going to produce well. We're not going to get good offers for you. We're probably not going to deal you. And this isn't going to work out for anyone. Again, I'm just speculating here. So maybe with that context, they were just like, screw it. Finally, let's get this surgery. Let's get it done. Let's get you 100% and let's build you back up and not have you kind of tank that value any further. That is only what I can assume. I don't know. I agree with you that it's odd timing, especially if he was dealing with it all last season. You can maybe start rehabbing it for the first couple of weeks or maybe a month. And if it's not responding, I would assume you would kind of want to opt for surgery sooner rather than later so you're ready for camp. But who knows? Again, not everybody wants surgery. Not everybody wants to go through that kind of stuff, whether it's invasive or not. So that could be at play. But I think the more important thing, and you mentioned it, Cody, is like this impacts two players, in my opinion, a lot. Number one, Grady Dick. Like you said, there's no question there was maybe a slim chance Bruce could have started instead of Grady, but now that's Grady's role. It's yours to lose. You should be kind of feeling comfortable, free in those minutes and kind of showing that you deserve it. And number two, Ochai Agbaji, you have a couple weeks to show everyone you're an NBA player. That is truly what it is. Like, you are going to be in this rotation now. You're going to have that role to be hopefully a 3-and-D guy. I don't know if I can say the three part after he was shot like 20% from three with the Raptors, even though he's around a 30% shooter for his career for the most part, but he just tanked that in Toronto. So if you can be that guy, you're going to have the role for it. You're a tall, athletic player with a strong build, very strong. And if you can fill those minutes for Bruce Brown, I think this is as good of an opportunity as you're going to get to do it. And you're not in a contract year, but they have a club option after this season, so it's basically you're in a contract year.
Yeah, basically. The second name kind of caught me off guard. I'm surprised you went with Ochai. I thought you were gonna be saying Jacoby Walter. I thought this was gonna be a chance for Walter to, I mean, maybe get in the rotation a bit earlier than people thought. It's a whole different conversation with Jacoby, and maybe we could say it for another day. But I mean, with this Bruce Brown news, I guess it is kind of relevant about what this kid's role is going to be, and it's just the context of this team. Like, nobody can really nail down, based on their moves, they're prioritizing youth and development, but they still have a mixture of these vets and win now pieces on the team. So, what's the plan here? But I mean, with Bruce Brown out, and I'm assuming they want to take it slow. When they go off to sell him, presumably being, hey, knees cleaned up, he's good to go. He'll probably get in a bit later. Maybe it's going to take a bit later than people think. I mean, that would be my guess, especially if Grady looks good. Like you said, let's give some time to Ochai. I would hope Jacoby Walter's pushing for some of that as well. I'm really interested to see what he does in year one, because, I mean, they drafted this kid. They need him to be good, especially with Gary Trent Jr. leaving. There is some holes there at guard. So we'll see. Weird that it's this late into camp, but I guess it all kind of makes sense that they were trying to rehab it before.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And it's funny because I was on the opposite side. I didn't actually think about Jacoby being impacted by this, but I think you're also right that, like, for Jacoby, it could be an opportunity for him to kind of see a role sooner rather than later. For him, I don't see it as much of like a do or die scenario, which is maybe probably why I didn't think about it, because obviously he's a rookie in his first year. It would be awesome if you could kind of slop up some of those minutes. But for Ochai, in my opinion, it's kind of like you're not going to get a better opportunity than this to really showcase yourself. Coming into the season, you were probably, in my opinion, fighting for that 9th spot in the rotation, and now you are automatically going to be bumped up, especially with it being a position that you can fill hypothetically. So Ochai, go earn your spot in the NBA, earn a second contract, and see what goes on from there. But I think that'll pretty much do it for the injury talk. And now we're back to a bit more fun news, something lighter, and this is more opinion based. But before the report of Vince Carter's jersey retirement, we had some other details kind of leaked, I guess, about the Raptors season. Obviously, 30th anniversary, so there's going to be some homages and celebrations. We don't know too much about that, but it was leaked that the Raptors are going to have two jerseys this season that are going to be different: a City Edition jersey and a Classic Edition jersey. So the Classic Edition is basically what you've seen that Vince Carter era of Toronto Raptors wear. It's purple with the red trim, black on the sides. The chevron's there. Everyone's afraid of the chevron. I'm sorry, it's still there. But classic, I think iconic, chef's kiss. That's what Vince Carter wore in the dunk contest, all that stuff. But the other one, the City Edition, is the very interesting one. It is that logo, if you've seen Vince Carter's iconic dunk turned into the Raptor. It's that on top of a black jersey with the pinstripes and a bit of gold mixed in. So, Cody, I have very strong thoughts about this, but I'll let you go first. What do you think about these jerseys to start off?
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time away from you. You've been beating the drum on all these jerseys and the court talk and all of this on Twitter. So yeah, I love I think it'd be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't love the classic jersey, the purple one. I mean, geez, that's gonna be great. I mean, I'm purchasing it. I don't know about you, but I'm getting that one too. The next one, it's not complete. It's not. We're waiting. I believe there's like, I guess it would be the top. If you're looking at it on like a picture, it's like the top left, like where my Nike logo is.
Yeah.
There should be. I think there's gonna be a number there that kind of seems obvious. I mean, this is the one I want to see in person. I need to judge it in person because, I mean, the logo's fire. They announced this back in April. This logo. It was a part of Carter's introduction to the Basketball Hall of Fame. But there was like no talk of it being on a jersey, at least to people who didn't have the inside knowledge. And now it's there. I mean, the logo's fire. I think the color scheme is cool. It's just going to be a matter of how it looks in person. And we haven't really seen a complete like thing of it. And like the image just looks like off-centered. I don't know. I love the purple one. I just need to see this one in person or complete.
Yeah. Look, I'll say a couple of things. I watched really hard. I have a lot of thoughts on this. But one, I think it has grown on me a little bit. I think I can agree that with the number, it's going to look better. But my overarching thought is I think the Raptors tried too hard to big brain this. And the reason being is the dinosaur kind of off-centered for the number. You can't tell how off-centered it is. The gold. Why the heck is there gold in there? I thought we were done with the gold. It's like you're trying to make, you know, the Kobe's where they put all the different colored Kobe's together into one shoe. It's like they're trying to do that with the jerseys. I don't understand the gold having to be there. I think you could have done purple. You could have done another accent color that was already there. A really dumb gripe that I have is that when you have the number on there, you're going to have two numbers on the front of the jersey because the Raptor has a number 15 on it.
Oh, yeah.
And like there's no word mark, which kind of neat. But if there isn't, or I mean, sorry, if there is, then you'd have two like words because the TOR is on the Raptors jersey there too. So you'd have lots of words there. That's just me nitpicking. But I think they're trying too hard to do this when there was an obvious solution here where if you go to that really, really nice Classic Edition jersey that we saw, that should have been the City Edition because that's what Vince Carter wore. If we're trying to honor Carter with this dino dunk and all that, you have that there. And what they could have done with it, which we're going to see on the court in a second here, add the pinstripes. Those really, really cool dino pinstripes, add them to the Vince Carter purple jersey in an accent color, and I think you hit a home run. That's my opinion, but I think it's right there. It's simple. It's the jersey the guy wore. If you're going to honor him during the City Edition 30th anniversary stuff, I think it's there. You big brain it with this dino where you try melding a couple different styles together, and I think you kind of missed a point here. That's where I'm at.
You know what? Now that you bring it up, it does stand out a little bit. I guess I didn't even really, I don't know if I just didn't care, didn't really pay attention to it at the start, but now that you mention it, there's the purple, I guess it's just like the outline of where like the arms are and like the around the neck, and then you got the gold Nike logo right there, and then the gold ball, and then the gold outline around the Raptor logo in general, which I guess it does look kind of offsetting a little bit. I'm not sure what other color you could have made it. Like, I'm not sure if making the ball purple would have done anything or whatnot, but very interesting. I mean, like I said, I guess these aren't like official, right? Like
Yeah, that's true.
it is all leaked stuff, but I mean, come on, they're not
Very
going to change.
likely.
They're not going to change course that drastically to this point. So we'll see how it looks. That's what I said. I need to see it in person. I need to see it in person because last year's City Edition with the gold, when I first saw the image, I was like, okay, I can work with these. And then I saw them in person, and I was like, oh no, I don't like these. I don't know if that's a hot. I don't know if that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's.
I think that's a very, very popular take, if we're being honest.
Oh, interesting. Okay, you're the Jersey. You're the Jersey guy, so I'm resulting to you. But yeah, I need to see it in person because I've been fooled before, literally last year.
Yeah.
So, but now that you pointed out, and then yeah, the two numbers thing might be kind of weird too. Is that even legal? I don't even.
I mean, I guess it depends. Like the Denver Nuggets have kept putting like 5280 or whatever it is on their jerseys for a couple seasons
true.
now. So like,
True.
I don't think it's like you can't do that. I just think it will bother some people. So look,
You bothering you?
yeah, yes, me. I'm people. I'm people if we're being honest. But look again. You big brained it. You could have even just done the old classic Dino jersey and stick the Vince Carter Dino on it. Like, is it really that? It would be a little less creative, sure, but it would be a cool remake rendition. You didn't have to reinvent the wheel here. And everyone, the people who are saying that, like, oh, well, look at the other City Edition jerseys. This is better than that. That is a low bar to go by, like a very low bar. The other City Edition jerseys, the super minimalistic bland ones, I don't even think they completed the Dallas Mavericks one. It's just all white and gray. I think they just forgot to color it in. But I don't think that should be the bar that we go by. So yes, it's better than that. It'll probably look better with the numbers. And again, admittedly, I think it will grow on me when I see it in person. And honestly, at the end of the day, if the team is good while wearing them, people are going to like it. That's just kind of how it usually does work as well. So that's part of it. But I think, again, I'm going to stop at just saying, I think you big-brained it. You killed it with the classic, with the Vince Carter purple. You could have just thrown a pinstripes on there. Again, like with this court that we're going to talk about in a sec, and that would have been awesome. But I'm going to stop there. I could keep going forever, but I think I'll stop there. Like I've mentioned like 3 times now, it was leaked that the Emirates NBA Cup, which is what they're calling it now, it's the NBA Cup officially. 2K did them dirty, apparently. NBA 2K snitched on the NBA basically because the courts and their designs of all teams were put into the game and people started noticing and they leaked it. So the Raptors court has been leaked. It is purple. Again, they're not going with the black and gray theme from last season, which I think a lot of people actually really liked. But they're going with the purple. They threw the pinstripes on there. Cody, do you have any thoughts on this? Anything interesting to say about it?
How does this even happen? Like, if you're the NBA, this is just a fumble of leaking these courts. And honestly, like, is this like true? Like, I guess like 2K is just like talking to them directly, obviously. So I guess it's not like the Ronnie 2K was just like, oh, that would look nice. I guess it's not that. But
yeah,
I mean, for what the image we got, I don't know. I kind of like it. I honestly haven't seen too many reviews of it. The Raptors logo in the middle, the red logo, it kind of throws me off a little bit. I'm not sure what else they could have done because like the I guess I don't know if it's mandated to have the cup in the middle of the floor.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think every team has that.
And then in the key as well, I'm assuming it's a mandated thing. So it's not like you could have made the Raptor logo gold, even though I'm sure people wouldn't have liked that anyways, or whatnot. But it's a little offsetting. Right in purple, I mean, to me, don't really, at least on this court in the image. And again, it's a blurry image from 2K. So need to see it in person again. But looks a bit off to me, but other than that, I mean, the purple court looks fire, man. Like if the whole court's gonna be purple like that, that's super dope.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a fan of the purple. I think it's going to be very interesting to see like how it is on television. We saw it with broadcast during the NBA Cup last season, how some TVs kind of dealt with bad reflections. Photography was a little difficult. I'm even curious, like even with these, you're going to have seemingly these black Dino City Edition jerseys on these purple courts. What are pictures going to look like? How's that going to be for a TV product? That'll be interesting, but I'm with you. I think it's sick. Again, the pinstripes on the purple, it's pissing me off more they didn't do that with the jerseys. It was right there. You had the formula. You did it on the court. You could have done it with the jerseys as well. Sorry, I'm going back to the jerseys. But I think the courts, I'm with you. I think they're cool. I agree. I think it's one of the better ones. There's some good ones that I've seen overall, but I think the Raptors have continued now a trend of 2 years where they've had one of the better NBA Cup courts. Now we just need them to win some NBA Cup games. It didn't go all that well last year. I believe they only won one game during the in-season tournament. So hopefully they can do better this year. They have a bit of a tough group. I know Milwaukee and Miami are in their group, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it's fun. I think it looks cool, and I'm curious to see the jerseys that go with it.
Man, I'm excited. Just not even just for to see the jerseys and the core. Like that's all part of it. It's gonna be a big year. They're doing lots of things this year, and I'm just excited for basketball, man. Like it's been such a last season was just such a drag through the mud for the
Yeah.
organization, the fans, especially the way it ended. Just like the amount of players that were playing, it was they set a record. If it wasn't for the Grizzlies doing it last
Yeah.
year as well, the Raptors set the record. The Grizzlies just set it even more. Um, Excited to see BBQ back. If anybody wants to learn a little bit more about BBQ, Zolfi did a great piece on Raptors Republic. So there you go. I'm giving you a
Thank
free
you.
shout out. Go check it out. It was great. Uh, just excited to see these guys back in the court, man. Excited to see Grady Dick, see what he can bring in year two. Uh, IQ and Scotty got these new contracts now, so let's see how they continue to progress. Can RJ continue to be what he was when he came to Toronto? What do these rookies look like? I know that's something me and you are personally really intrigued by because, I mean, there's going to be a lot more interest in the 905 this year. That means hey, people are going to want to hear our voices a little bit more. So, hey, we take the
Hell
trade
yeah.
off. But I'm excited to see how all they do, especially Jacoby Walter, because, I mean, I think he can be really good. Maybe they hit. You know, hey, these late first round picks, they hit, and Toronto's been one of the better drafting teams in general. So hey, maybe he's a star.
Yeah, you never know. That's the thing. With teams like the Raptors and the situation they're in, there's a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty can be daunting, but it can also be very exciting. And Cody, you sound super excited. I know I'm excited. Hopefully, this fan base as well. There's a lot to look forward to. And hopefully, after this conversation, after the couple tangents that we had, or let's be honest, that I had, you guys feel more caught up on the Raptors news. But that pretty much wraps it up from us here. If there's anything else that comes up, we'll try to catch you up on it. But again, Media Day next week, preseason starting shortly after that. Very, very close to real basketball, but that pretty much wraps it up here. I'm Zolfi Sheikh with Cody Wiles. Run it back on the Raptors Republic Network. We will see you next time.